On today's show, Laura Heywood interviews
a legend of New York theater and one of the nicest people I know, Anne Harada. Welcome to Laura Heywood Interviews. I'm Laura Heywood. The resume of Anne Harada is, without a doubt, impressive and so varied. On Broadway, she's sung Rodgers and Hammerstein, Boublil and Schonberg, Dolly Parton, Ahrens and Flaherty, Robert Lopez, plus appeared in David Henry Hwang's celebrated play Butterfly in her Broadway acting debut. On screen, and this is a very partial list, she's appeared in Smash, Gotham, 30 Rock, The Jim Gaffigan Show, Sex and the City, and my favorite, the digital series Indoor Boys. After starting her theatrical career in a producer's office and making her credited Broadway debut as a production assistant on a play called Sleight of Hand that was only open for 6 days, Anne got her equity card off-Broadway in a play called 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by Maury Yeston and Larry Gelbart. The next year, she joined the cast of Butterfly, followed shortly thereafter by Seussical the Musical, and then she got the role of a lifetime in an early reading of Avenue Q. After, legend has it, one of the creatives asked a friend, "Does anyone know an Asian actress?" The role would go on to become Anne Harada's theatrical alter ego, Christmas Eve. She hasn't stopped working since, or so it seems to me, and I'm always delighted to see her on screen and on stage. Anne's current role is another once-in-a-lifetime comedic experience. I'm going to let her tell you the character's name, but suffice it to say, you must rush to the Duke Theater on 42nd Street to see Anne Harada's special appearance in Emojiland. I'm so excited to have my friend in studio today, Anne Harada. Welcome to Laura Heywood Interviews.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. So tell us about your character in Emojiland.
Well, I play the most famous, arguably the most famous emoji in the world, Pile of Poo. And that's how it's going to go on my resume, Pile of Poo. Yes.
It's perfect.
Yeah, I think so.
Talk about iconic.
Yeah.
You might say that that Pile of Poo is more iconic than Christmas Eve.
Well, certainly on a
global scale.
Global scale, yes. God help us. Yes, yes.
Have people started gifting you Pile of Poo emoji stuff?
Well.
And is there such a thing as too much?
I guess we'll find out. I basically, on opening night, Dwelvin, David, who plays the guardsman, gifted us all with a bunch of little emoji knickknacks. Like those little poo keychains that are kind of, like stuff like that. Rings that light up and, So I do have some of those. And Ellie Ewald gave me a poo card that we had looked at Bibble and Sip about 2 months ago. And she was like, "I'm getting you that." And I was like, "All right, great." And, she showed up with it. I was like, there it is.
This is fellow Broadway star
Ellie Ewald,
who played
the first
Christine.
Asian Christine and Phantom. And she was my Cosette when I did Les Mis.
Oh, that's right.
That was a lot of Asian Les Mis.
Well, good.
No, it was amazing.
Why do we even, I get why we need to talk about that, like why that's special, but it's like nobody ever talks about a lot of white people.
No, of course, because that's the,
that's the
traditional. But in that particular production, it was like Lea Salongo was Fantine, Adam Jacobs was Marius.
Yeah.
That's 4 right there.
I thought that's actually, I don't know that was on my radar. Because I remember the day that there were a couple of understudies on in Be More Chill, and all 4 principals were Asian.
Yeah.
And that I thought that was the first time there were 4 principal roles played on Broadway by Asian people in roles that weren't specifically written to be Asian. But I was wrong. Les Mis?
Oh, yeah.
Les Mis did it.
And then we had the little girl, there was a little, Eponine Cosette who was Asian. We had a lot of, it was great.
This is so funny because I was like, we're going to do an interview where we don't need to talk about
that.
The Asian casting, stuff. Like, I want to talk to my friend Anne, not like Asian Broadway groundbreaker Anne Harada. And then here we are in the first 5 minutes. We're going there. I didn't want to ignore it.
No, I understand. It was just that particular production, we were very, it made us laugh. Like, we just couldn't believe it,
How wonderful.
No, it was great.
Yeah. And I love Allie. Did you see her as Anne of Green Gables?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. What a beautiful role.
Yeah. Well, she's very special.
Agreed. I'm going to send her this so she feels loved. Okay, so you've got your pile of poo stuff. Do you have one of the pillows yet? 'Cause
No.
I feel like I see those pillows. They sell them in all the Times Square gift shops.
Well, listeners, now you know I don't have one yet.
I also feel like I've never seen this, but I feel like it would be cool is a giant beanbag chair, like shaped like the pile
Well,
of
yeah, sure, yeah.
You're forever going to be associated with this poo.
Okay. I don't have any problems with that.
I love that about you. You are not like, I could see you playing Lady Macbeth and having like the most serious, like dramatic role, and then also being like, and never getting to a point where you're like, you expect me to play something called Pile of Poo. There's just like nothing pretentious about you, and you seem to be willing to just have fun and go with the flow.
I just don't understand what the point of being pretentious about parts would be. Like, wouldn't that limit you? I just think you have to be open to everything.
You know, it's funny. Leslie Margarito, who's also in Emojiland playing Princess, was here a little bit ago, and she was talking about how she made it a point when she moved to New York, she was just going to say yes to everything. If her schedule allowed it and her mental health allowed it, she was going to say yes to everything. And that people are surprised that she's willing to do like a show at a festival that doesn't pay a lot, or that she says yes so often to people's 54 Below shows or whatever. And she and I talked about how much joy it brings her to not ever get to a point where there's some element of like, do you know who I am? Do you know what I've done?
First of all, nobody cares. I mean, I honestly, I don't think anybody cares about who you are or what you've done, or, you know, we're all just actors. Honestly, I'll tell you why I did Emojiland. I did it to have fun.
Is there a better reason?
There's no better reason for me, you know, but I mean, if you look at like why you look at your schedule and you go, oh, I'm going to do 8 shows a week off Broadway. You know, you better have a good reason to do it. Mm-hmm. At this point, I don't need any more credits.
Yeah, you've got a lot.
Do you know what I mean? So if I take a job, it has to be something that I feel something about. And it's when I was, you know, approached with the project, I was like, okay, this on paper, it doesn't sound so promising. But then I read the script and I thought it was funny. And I was like, well, Josh and Leslie are doing it. This is literally how it went. Josh and Leslie are doing it.
That's Josh Lehman, who plays Prince Emoji, and Leslie Margarita. And you've got some other really impressive castmates.
I know, but I didn't know
at
that point who was in it, or even if they were yet. And they were like, Josh and Leslie. And I was like, well, I feel like having fun. And like there's a hole in my schedule, and it's like, fine. Like it seemed like if I would be with Josh and Leslie every day, how bad was it going to be?
Right. Even no matter what the material looked like. And the material is great.
And, they'd both done it before. And I thought, okay, they did it before, so they've road tested it. I was like, great, I'm in. Sometimes it isn't about like building your career, whatever. Sometimes it's just like, I feel like it. I just feel like it.
Yeah. I mean, what a perfect reason. And, in a way that reminds me of the way you got started, in that you were like, you went to college, you got a theater arts degree at Brown, and you were like, I don't really know what I want to do. You weren't like, I'm going to be the next Meryl Streep. You were like, I love theater. I want to be around it. How can I learn as many things as possible and then see where I fit in? And I think that if you'd gone in going like, I have to be the definition of like a grand actress, then maybe you could have gotten into a situation where you were judging yourself on just wanting to have fun, as if that was,
Yeah, well, here's the thing. At Brown, it wasn't like I was any great shakes as an actor. I was in plays, I was in shows, but I was no star performer.
Well, I think about the people who come out of Brown now with theater degrees, and it's like John Krasinski,
yeah,
and,
exactly.
And all these other like super people who come out as if they have a conservatory degree. And I didn't know this until like looking into your background, but Brown hasn't always been like a theater school in that way.
Oh, God. When I was there, it wasn't at all. It was sort of like an offshoot of the English department. It had just sort of been like, oh, now they're going to give us an office, and we're going to, like now we have a theater, department, because they didn't. It was just, we're going to do 4 shows a year. The main stage did 4 shows a year, and there was a student group that did shows in a black box. That was it.
What shows were you in college? Do you remember?
Yes, I did a lot of original. They did an original musical every year. mostly awful. I was in those, and then I also was the old lady in Candide. Was my first big part at Brown. Yes, it really. I was like, wow, I got that. That's amazing. I was excited. I was a freshman.
Well, Candide is a serious singing musical. I mean, it's not a belting musical. And I realize that sounds like I'm putting down belting as opposed to like
no.
classical
But I mean,
style.
I understand. But it's like but the part of the old lady, of course, is a comic role.
You're very funny.
And there it was. I was like, okay, well, great.
Also, you have a beautiful voice.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
So whatever. I mean, and then, I don't know, like in senior year, we were in a little night music. So, we did some stuff. Mm-hmm. But at Brown, there were plenty of actors who were way better, way more, I don't know what to say, accomplished, talented.
And where are they today? Really?
Working.
People with you who
Have
were
you
there
heard
with
of
you?
Laura Linney? I don't know.
Laura,
She's been in a few movies.
Yeah, I think she might be in something right now.
She might be
on Broadway.
Yeah.
Okay, so you did theater with Laura Linney in college?
Well, she was like a year, I guess, or so behind me at school. And the first time I saw her in a play, I was like, that one. Like, she was so heads and shoulders above everybody else at school when I was there.
Oh my gosh, did you ever like go to a kegger with her or anything? Like what stories do you have that you can tell us?
No, I never went to a kegger with her. But Tim Blake Nelson, who was also there, I remember came over to our dorm room for a party and brought beer.
Oh my gosh, I'm calling page 6.
Right now. Woo-wee. And there were many, many working actors right now that I went to Brown with. Richard Topol, who was in Indecent.
Yeah. Oh
Jennifer
gosh,
Van
so
Dyke, who's in The Confession of Lily Dare right now. These are all, so like Kevin Pariseau, who's on the My Fair Lady tour, is Pickering. These are all my peers.
Yeah.
And they were really, really good. And I was okay. You know what I mean? Like, it was like that. So I didn't come out of school thinking, like, I'm going to be an actor because I'm really qualified. And if you look at my teacher recommendations, and I just saw my freshman advisor, he came to see Emojiland.
Oh my gosh.
Just so randomly, and afterwards, and I just thought, like, how weird is it that so many years after I graduated, I mean, a long time, that your college professor, you're having coffee with them after, you're like, he made an effort to see me play a pile of poo. And he would never have thought when we were at Brown that I was going to be an actress. Because on all my recommendations, they were like, Anne is so enthusiastic. She's going to succeed at whatever she does, whatever that is. You know what I mean?
Can you imagine if there had been like, in sort of Greek tragedy kind of style, if you'd gone to see a soothsayer and they were like, I see in your future a pile of poo. And yet here you are, just this incredibly accomplished Broadway actor with that's the kind of thing that might freak you out and make you decide to go in a different direction.
Maybe. Although here, and this is another thing that I told my professor, is that I've often thought, like, why did I do this? Why did I become an actor?
Why did you?
Because there was something in my mind that I thought I could. And even though not one person said, you should be an actor, like not one, not one theater professional, not one professor, nobody has ever said, like, you. In my mind, I just thought, I think I can.
And wasn't it true that you working in the producer's office and sort of seeing the casting process, and you saw people come in and you were like, oh, well, I'm at least as good as they are.
Exactly.
I think that's so smart, and like I wish that more people who come up wanting to be famous had more of a sense of wanting to know their industry and figure out what their place in it is, rather than wanting the adulation, like wanting to figure out what the whole thing is about,
Well, I just think fame is a goofy thing to chase.
Oh,
And I cannot even imagine, obviously, because I picked the theater.
You've got to get recognized on the street, though.
Sometimes on 45th Street. As my husband says, you're a household name if the house is on 45th Street. But when I came here, right, I was a production assistant. I worked in a producer's office. And I thought, if nothing else, I will learn all the parts of what that entails, And I learned, and I was like, I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. But at least when I got to sit in on the auditions, I did get to see other actors, really famous actors, come in and audition. And this was a play that I of course, had read a million times because we were working on it.
This is Sleight of Hand.
Sleight of Hand. And I was like, weird. Like, I'm thinking to myself, what a weird take on that. Or, it's like my instincts are at least as strong as some of these people who work.
Right.
So I thought, well, maybe then I might have a chance.
I feel like everybody should have to watch auditions before they audition, because it's really easy to see only the person who got the role.
Right, exactly.
And be like, well, I'm not that good.
No,
but
I
of
could
course,
never
they've
be
also
that
been
good.
working on it for 3 or 4 months.
Right.
Whereas if you see all of the people you already know are talented, and
they've had, 2 days, like you know what I mean, when you have for an audition, and you go and you're like, oh, that's terrible, or whatever. Or for me, I just never, because I didn't have a sense of myself as a performer, I didn't know I could. Mm-hmm. And that's really the biggest thing in my head. So once I thought, oh no, I could, mm-hmm. then you're just freer when you go in for the audition.
So how did you go from I could to actually doing it?
Well, because I worked for this producer's office, I had to run stuff over to Meg Simon Casting all the time. And my office mate was an aspiring director. So he thought, I was like, I'd like to do a cabaret show. He was like, I'll direct you. So we did a cabaret show at, what is it called? What was it called? It's like one of those in the Village, kind of like near where you do the sing-alongs.
Oh, yeah, Marie's Crisis?
Marie's Crisis, but not Marie's Crisis, 88's, I guess.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway, so we did a cabaret show, and we invited everybody we knew. Well, we knew Meg Simon, and we knew all of these fancy people. So she came.
Yeah. Wow.
And get this, she was the casting director for M. Butterfly.
Oh.
So then, when they were looking for replacements, she thought, why don't I call Ann in? Because she had seen my cabaret.
Right.
Random. And that's what happened. Then I went in, and I got the job.
Yeah. Cool. If only everyone could follow a path like that. And by a path like that, I don't mean working in a producer's office and doing a cabaret, but I mean understanding that there isn't necessarily a straight line from A to B.
Right.
And that, I'm working on a book, and this is kind of exactly what my book is about. It's it's called The Infinite Hallway. And the idea is that you're at the one end of a hallway, and all the way at the other end, so far away you almost can't see it, there's a door. And that's the door that's your goal. And that's the door that pulls you toward it, and you have to start running, and you build up this momentum. But all along the sides of the hallway, there are all these other doors, and you can peek in as you go on either side. And at the end of one of those other hallways that's through one of those side doors, you might see a different goal and be like, oh, I want to go down that hallway this time. And you take off running, you take a hard left and take off running. And that, if you didn't have the momentum from going towards your first goal, you never would have seen what your new goal would be. But you might end up the chances that you'll end up where you thought you were going to is small. But the way that my Infinite Hallway has worked, where I thought my goal was I'm going to be on Broadway, and I went to school for theater, and I, pursued acting at, on camera and stuff. And then I fell away from that, went into radio, and started pursuing radio hardcore, and all of my hallways have ended up leading me back to, in this weird way I never anticipated, and kind of on Broadway now. Mm-hmm. I'm not on Broadway as an actor, but every time I step on a stage to I was doing an interview with Jake Gyllenhaal on the stage of Seawall A Life, and I like hosted waitress karaoke on stage at that theater. And I did like a full cast talk back at Come From Away. And I'm like, oh, I didn't have to go A to B to get to B. And if I had gone A to B, then my momentum would have stopped and I would have just sat in the middle of the hallway sad that it was harder to get there than I thought. I want young people to understand that there is no path except to just start moving forward and seeing where you go.
That's it. I mean, of course, no one's going to have the same path I had or you had.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I sort of feel like kids are always, well, what if I don't get into, Juilliard or Yale or
Brown?
Well, no, but Brown at the time was not a acting.
I know.
It's like Brown.
I'm teasing.
I did it for the. I did it so I could read books. I mean, I didn't really have a plan when I went to college. I didn't know what I wanted to do.
I totally get it.
Except that I wanted to work in the theater. And I still, to this day, believe that if I was not a performer, I would be working in a theater, taking tickets or sewing costumes or sweeping floors. I would be doing something in the theater because the theater is the only place I've ever felt truly comfortable.
Wow.
And, I could still join. I could still join the wardrobe union, and I have always had it in the back of my mind.
Yeah, why not?
I love doing laundry.
Do you know Marty Thomas?
Of course.
So he also has been a guest here, and he was an actor, a performer. He'd been on Broadway, and he was like, I might not be able to perform forever. So he went to beauty school, and now he's this incredibly accomplished hair, makeup, costume guy who has Broadway credits in multiple departments. The guy who does makeup on Wicked was like Lady Gaga's first opening act.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many of us are willing to be part of it no matter what that part looks like. And the multifaceted nature of so many of us, I think, is really cool and not focused upon.
Well, I mean, creativity expresses itself in so many different ways, obviously. And for somebody like Marty, who, is so gifted as a performer, he's just found another way to express himself that is equally wonderful. What is, to me, well, that's all part of the same thing.
I think it would be just the same thing if you went into costuming.
Or ticket selling. I did work part-time in the box office for Vampire Lesbians of Sodom.
You did?
Yes, it was like my second job, because it's not like being a PA pays so much. So it's like, again, it was like this, my friend had a friend who ran the thing and needed somebody to come in and work part-time. And I was like, all right. So after work, I would go to the box office and I'd sell the tickets.
And I bet that it gives you an insight into when you are starring in a show, you're in Avenue Q, which won the Tony, and there's some kid working at the box office. And I bet that you have a kinship with them because that they're not just a prop there to,
Well, no, nobody is.
Right.
Everybody's got a story. Everybody's,
And you might not know that, though, if you hadn't had that story.
Well, I guess, but I just feel like, I don't come from a fancy family. I feel like I was sort of like a weirdo, in my world. Because
I don't know. I heard you were rubbing shoulders with future presidents when you were in high school.
Well, that is deeply not true. We went to the same high school, but we were not in the same class.
This is Barack Obama.
We never took class together.
I know. He was on the basketball team. You were in the theater department. Right. And unlike High School Musical, those worlds don't collide. I know the story.
But I'm just saying... but again, his grandmother worked at the Bank of Hawaii with my mom. So she was one of the first people to hop on his little bandwagon.
Nice work.
Yeah, nice work. And it's sort of like, you don't know. You don't know anybody's story based on where they grew up or how they grew up. He had a vision and he pursued it. I had a vision and I pursued it. I don't know why I'm here, but it's this is where I am now.
Yeah, and you're making so many people smile.
Well, that's very lovely.
Can we talk about how you're credited in Emojiland?
Yeah.
Like, there's the cast list,
Yeah.
and then in a box, it says, plus a special appearance by Anne Harada.
Do not ask me. I do not know. I did not know about it until when I saw that playbill. I was like, what the hell is this? No clue. I guess that's what my agent decided to do for fun that day.
Well, I love it. And actually, the funny thing is, you are, I mean, is it a spoiler alert to say that you're in the back half of the show? Like,
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. So spoiler alert, I guess, in retrospective, spoiler alert. But yeah, you're in the first number, and I was with a friend who turned to me after you appear in the first number, and she turned to me and she was like, was that the special appearance? And then for the rest of Act 1, we don't see you. Right. And she was like, I mean, I'm really excited that I got to see Anne Harada, but I was hoping it would be more than like a 10-second clip. And then the other best part about that is that another friend of mine posted on Facebook that I was there, and then a friend of mine was asked a question about something about Pile of Poo or about you or about the show, and you were, by intermission, you had like responded to it directly on Facebook. I was like, I guess I know what she does now behind the scenes.
Well, I'm not doing anything.
Well, okay, so if that's the case, why hasn't your Instagram been updated in like 6 months?
Okay, look, I am an old woman, okay? Like, believe me, I get so much grief from my castmates because I have a really super old phone.
Is it a flip phone?
No, it's not a flip phone.
Then I forgive you for it.
But I'm just telling you, so like, so everybody would be like, I was like, my phone's not working. Everybody's phone doesn't work in that building because of the terrible Wi-Fi.
Uh-huh.
And the people would look at it and go like, well, no wonder, because it was a 5S.
Okay.
Okay. And in my house, we all, like, my husband, anytime somebody gets a new phone, like my husband or my kid, somebody gets a new phone, then the next person in line gets their old phone, right? So like it gets passed down. And we all love the headphone jack.
Oh my gosh, yes. I miss the headphone jack.
So we're sort of stuck in this area of like kind of oldish phones, right? Okay. So for opening night, my husband upgraded me to an SE. Think about that.
Well, wait. Is this like the
It's the
X?
next step past the 5S.
Oh, okay. Okay. So this is a 6S.
No, it's the SE.
Oh, I don't think I
There's
know
one
about
in
that.
between the 5 and the, okay, so it's between the 5 and the 6. And
So it's a 5SE?
it's just called the SE.
SE.
Don't
Oh,
ask me.
all right.
I don't get it.
Apparently I don't
Apple
either.
is a thing I don't understand, but so it's the SE. So I was like, I have a new phone. Exactly the same size as my old phone, which is like a normal, like it's old, it's so little, right? And it fits in my
like
pocket,
a
which
deck
I
of
love.
cards, yeah.
It's like a deck of, so I love it because I don't like carrying that mini iPad, the 10 or whatever it is.
Yeah,
That's so
I've got a giant.
gigantor.
I
Yeah,
have a giant one.
It's huge. You can't sneak it in your pocket in rehearsal. You know what I mean?
Oh, got it. It fits in my pocket, but you can tell it's there.
Yeah, you can tell it's there.
So, okay.
So anyway, so
your
now
SE has an Instagram app, I'm sure.
No, it does. Of course it does. But what I'm saying is, if I'm the kind of person who thinks that the SE is the cutting edge of phone, do you really think I'm also the kind of person that's going to understand Instagram?
Well, I know that if I look, that your most recent photo makes me think that I can go to the Muni and see you as Mrs. Wormwood and Matilda.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That was at least this year, or this past year. I guess we turned the year, but like people, I don't understand that you have to go on Instagram all the time because otherwise I get a lot of things that say like blah blah mentioned you in their story, and I go, oh, that's nice, and I try to find it, and it's been gone for days.
2 weeks, yeah.
And I'm like, well, what is the point of this app?
All I'm saying is,
And they're like, you have to look at it all the time, and I'm like, that's ridiculous.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying maybe put one picture with your current project so people know what you're doing.
If I was the kind of person who was good at social media, I was like, no, I mean, I'm sorry. I know I should be better. Should be better.
I'm not mad at it. But like you do have a teenage son and you could probably ask him to put one thing up there for you.
I could. but he's really more of a Twitter guy.
Oh. Interesting. I thought the kids had graduated on from Twitter. Like, I taught a social media workshop at the Academy for Music, the American Music and Dramatic Academy. And the first thing I did was I was like, okay, how many of you are on Twitter? How many of you are on Instagram? How many of you are on Facebook? And they were like, it was like Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok, which I've literally never opened. And I was like, I don't know that I'm qualified to be teaching you guys how to use social media. Because Twitter is really the one I know the best. But they were like, nobody uses Twitter anymore. So I'm glad to know, just as an OG Twitterer, that there are some high school students still using it.
Well, he's a music critic.
Oh, he is?
Yes. He has a YouTube channel where he puts, his 10 best of the year, 10 worst of the year, 40 best songs of the blah. And and there apparently is a community of many people who also do music reviews on Twitter.
Okay.
So
wait, do you know his username? Like, can we talk about it?
We can't talk
him.
about it.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't like it when I talk about him.
He doesn't want the promotion of the crossover fandom. All right.
I know, he's crazy.
He wants to do it all by himself.
He wants to do it all by himself, and that's totally valid. So I'm not gonna. But it shouldn't be too hard for you to figure it out, guys. Anyway, but he's So all his friends are from music Twitter. Music critic Twitter. And I'm like, I didn't know there was such a thing. But fine. Kids these days, do whatever you want. That's what I say.
That sounds like a dangerous thing to say.
Well,
to a
no,
teenager.
I know. But I mean...
No, but he's expressing his creativity.
Correct.
Well, I did hear you say once in an interview that your son's goal in life was to be a YouTube star. And it sounds like he's doing the work.
He is doing the work.
He doesn't expect it just to descend upon him.
No.
So you know what? Good on him.
Yeah. And who knows what his goal eventually will be?
Right.
He's just at the beginning of his hallway, and so I think there's many things that will distract him and whatever. Mm-hmm. But he's very creative, and he was using iMovie when he was 7. Mm-hmm. He's really, really good at it. So whatever, we'll see what happens.
So I know that you've been trying hard to work, especially on long-term projects in New York while he's still in school. Have you thought about what's going to happen when he leaves the nest and you don't have the sort of child's connection to keep you in New York? Are you going to go on a cruise for a year?
No, I would
or
never
something?
go on a cruise.
Just in general?
Well, I don't know if I would never go on a cruise, but I mean, in general, the idea of being on a big boat does not appeal to me at all.
Oh, see, to me, that's the dream.
No. I like being able to go away. To get up and go away, to a different place to eat or something.
Yeah, but those cruise ships are like a city. They have 20 restaurants on them.
No, I know, but it's...
I'm not forcing you.
No, I just don't feel comfortable.
That's just something you and I have that's different.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I just don't feel comfortable about that. Also, I just keep thinking Titanic and...
Yeah, fair.
I'll just be like, oh, where are those lifeboats? Checking that whole part out. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't seem like fun to me.
So sort of speaking of being stuck in the middle of the ocean, do you go back to Hawaii at all?
Well, I haven't in a while because all my jobs have been during Christmas vacation. Mm. Do you know what I mean? And all my vacations have to revolve around my kids. School vacations.
Right.
So it's the biggest drag ever. But I'm very hopeful always that I'll be able to go home. But I wasn't.
It still feels like home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just because my mom's there. And most of my extended family is still in Hawaii. And I love it. But you can't be an actor there. I mean, unless I was on Hawaii Five-0.
Oh, yeah, they film
which
there.
I've never been on. You know what I mean? But
doesn't Loretta Abel-Sayre still live there?
Yes, but...
So she's the one professional actress.
Well, she can, but she's here a lot, too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She has to go where the work is, just like everybody else.
Right.
And I can't.
It's so far away.
It's so far away.
Yeah. Well, I hope that you have a chance to go back and see your family from time to time.
Yeah, of course. No, I will. I'm not,
Maybe you could go and do a cabaret. Is there a 54 Below on... What island are you from?
Oahu.
Is there a 54 Below Oahu?
Not that I'm aware of yet.
Think about the acts you could get if you offered to fly them to Oahu for a week?
Where would I put them up, Laura?
Oh, I'm not necessarily saying you should do this.
Oh,
I'm
somebody.
saying if someone who lived there
Right.
had a space that
At an Airbnb.
yeah, then they could like open a little cabaret space. I don't know.
Yeah, already. I'm like,
My
who's
hall. I'm
going to
like,
make money off of this?
I'm looking back and forth like to the doors in the hallways. This is my problem.
No,
is that I
and
want to go down every single one of
and
the
I
hallways.
think that would be amazing, but I just don't know anybody like that.
Uh-huh.
And I don't have a lot of faith that anybody ever will feel that way. You know,
That's too bad.
not that Hawaii isn't a very arty place. It is, but it's just not what we do.
Uh-huh.
You know, I mean, like it's always great, like when the touring shows come in and play like the big arena, you know, like whatever. But it's the kind of, because it's so far away, you know, not every show can afford to come to Hawaii for
Right.
a week or 2 weeks and do, you know, I mean, the big shows can, Phantom or Lion King, they've all been there, but it's just not, you know, it's a place where people concentrate on being outdoors,
Yeah.
not in a theater. And so when I was growing up, and like, so all I could ever do was work at community theaters, which I did, and I was very happy. But like, you know, it's not a real place where it's like, ooh, let's go into the arts. You know, like there's an opera theater, I guess, and there's a symphony.
Well, I'm glad you found your way here because New York theater loves you.
Well, that's really nice, and I'm very happy to be in New York. I've always loved it.
Do you even love it when it's like 100 degrees and the trash is stinking on the street? I do, but I think most people don't.
I love it because it's a city where literally anything is possible.
That's true.
I feel like very magical things can happen here because almost everybody in the universe finds their way here at some point or another.
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy. When I was 15 years old, my parents brought me here on a vacation, and all I wanted to do was see Broadway shows. And I did. I saw a Broadway show every night.
What was your first one?
The very first Broadway show was like in 1976. This was now 1970. In 1976, my first show was Pippin. In 1979, we did a whole week, and so it was like Annie, Ain't Misbehaving, you know, like shows, the big shows.
Yeah.
And Sweeney Todd was the highlight, and we got tickets for the Sunday matinee of the Tonys. So we saw it the day it won the Tony.
Oh my gosh.
right.
You saw the most exhausted cast.
The most
ever.
exhausted cast ever the day it won the Tony. And so, of course, like Stephen Sondheim was my hero, and he was on my mind constantly. And during that trip, I saw him get out of a limousine, and I screamed from half a block away, Mr. Sondheim, Mr. Sondheim. Like he turns around like this crazy little girl. And he was like, yes? And I started crying, and I said, thank you. Like that. And he said, oh, you're welcome. And, you know, and I just thought, like, what other city in the world would that be possible?
I have goosebumps and you have tears in your eyes.
Because it just didn't seem like it could ever happen. If you were a girl from Hawaii, in the middle of an ocean, far away, in a place where hardly anybody cared about musical theater, and then you come to New York for 1 week to see stuff, and you see your idol on the street, random, not like there's an evening with Steve, you know, or anything like that, just randomly. To me, that's so magical. And then in London, when I was there doing Avenue Q, again, you're walking down the street, Tom Stoppard, right there. I was like, I was like, oh my goodness, could I have a picture with you? And I think he was just so stunned that anybody recognized him, you know. And he's like, oh, certainly, you know. So I'm like, with my old-fashioned camera, you know, that I carried around, camera, not a phone, camera, you know. And I just think like that's the magic of a big city where you're just like anything could happen at any moment. So
have you interacted with Stephen Sondheim since then? Have you gotten to tell him that story?
no, but I've shaken. We shook hands. We've shaken hands a few times. When I did Pacific Overtures off Broadway.
Right.
Yeah, we did that thing. Oh, nice to meet you. He doesn't know. Why would he care? He doesn't know.
I'm sure that if you were like at 15, I assaulted you on the street and you were kind. No, you think he'd be like, okay.
He doesn't care.
Yeah. I got to meet him. In fact, Facebook, you might not know this because I know you don't do social media a lot, but I also know Facebook. Facebook will show you your memories. So I had a memory, I think it was 5 years ago today. I was like, dear universe, I would like to meet Stephen Sondheim. Consider it out there. And I did sometime I think it was shortly thereafter. He did an evening at the Rubin Museum in Chelsea, and it sold out immediately, and I went and waited to see if anybody had any extra tickets or
Right.
in the returns line. There was this huge list, a written list of people waiting, and I was 80th on the list, and there were 150 seats in the thing, so I knew I wasn't getting in. And then this guy came up and he said, "Is this the line for people waiting to get in, people with tickets?" And I said, "No, this is the line for people hoping that people don't show up. So this is the wrong line if you have tickets." And he goes, "Okay, well, wait, are you waiting to get in?" And I was like, are you waiting for a ticket? And I said, "Yeah, I'm 80th on the list." And he goes, "Oh, I have an extra ticket. Just come with me." And I had this moment where I was like, the right thing to do would be to tell him to give it to the person at the front of the list. But also my dream, I've always wanted to meet Stephen Sondheim. And I just swallowed really hard and I said, "I think you should give it to the person at the front of the line." And he was like, "No, I want to give it to you." And I was like, I did the right thing and it paid off. Yes. And so I got to go and I got to meet him and I did that. "You've changed my life so much." And he was like, "Mm-hmm."
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't care, nor should he. It's fine. Giants walk among you and you just take it for what it is.
I know that you have changed a lot of people's lives, specifically the young Asian American actresses who've gone on to play Christmas Eve. I've talked to some of them, including the ones that you have gotten to know because they played the role on and off Broadway after you, that the first time they ever saw a role that they were like, "Oh, I could be on Broadway," was seeing you. That's got to be really humbling. And I can't imagine that when they come up and tell you changed their life, that you're like, whatever.
Well, of course not. First of all, there aren't that many of them. Billions of people have been changed by Stephen Sondheim. Maybe, 10 girls for me. But that's fine. And I'm thrilled about it. Mm-hmm. And if
you were getting out of a car and somebody was like, "Miss Harada!"
Yeah, I would say hi. Of course. Usually they just find me on Facebook and we have coffee. It's really not that big of a deal. But it's great to have had the chance to play a role, a life-changing role like that. You don't get that many in your career. Mm-hmm. You're lucky if you get one. And I've had some good parts. So I feel very blessed.
Do you still do your annual Christmas Eve
Well,
show?
That's the thing. It's it's not really annual anymore. It's sort of like when she's not in a show during December. And it just hasn't worked out lately.
Yeah.
And last year I thought, we're going to do it. And then Broadway Cares, and I could not come up with a date that worked because there's so many things going on at the holidays. There's other things. So at some point we'll get it back together and we'll do at least one more, I hope.
Yeah.
Before I shut the door on that character.
Well,
now it's getting a little ridiculous.
But she'll always belong to you, don't you think? It's not like Bobby and Jeff are going to be like, "Cease and desist, stop performing."
If they should have done it by now if they were going to. But no, it's just you don't want to be I don't want Christmas Eve to be like my James Tyrone character, the Count of Monte Cristo in Long Day's Journey, I can play one part. That's all the people want me to do, and I'm
sure.
And also it's gonna be a little grotesque when I'm 90, putting on that Christmas Eve outfit, hobbling out there. Already, I'm so old. It's But I love her. I love Christmas Eve so much.
I've actually always wanted to ask you about the dialect for Christmas Eve because the very first time I saw Avenue Q, which was shortly after it opened. I don't think it had won the Tony yet, but it was right when maybe I had. I moved to New York at the very beginning of 2005.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. So, and it was during a Broadway Cares collection, and you stepped to the front and you were like, hi, it's important to me to give this speech, first of all, so you know that I don't actually talk like that. And also because raising money for Broadway Cares is important for this, and this reason. And, there's this whole theme of everyone's a little bit racist and stuff in the show, which kind of read to me, and maybe just in retrospect, is like, it's okay to laugh at this funny caricature of an accent because we are all a little bit racist and we are acknowledging that as part of this. But I'm interested, as the person who helped create that role, what your relationship to that dialect was.
It was
and
important.
Is.
I feel like she had to have an accent. She was written to have an accent, and she has to have an accent. Otherwise, there's no point in singing Everyone's a Little Bit Racist. There'd be no reason for anyone to make an assumption about her if she didn't have that accent.
Right.
So to me, Christmas Eve has to have an accent, or else why do the song? Why be a part of that song? I'm not ashamed of the accent. It's sort of meant to be kind of a not great accent. But it's like, people have accents. And people are funny, and people are bright, and that has nothing to do with your accent. So to me, it was very important, and will always be important that Christmas Eve has an accent.
Yeah.
Because it's like, this is how the world is, kids. And you can't make assumptions about anybody.
It also seemed like it was important to you, at least in that performance I went to, that you let people know that wasn't your accent.
Well, it's like, I'm an actor.
Yeah.
And just, I guess I was sort of at a place where I sort of thought, well, not everybody realizes that I'm an actor. I don't know. I guess I was just sort of thinking, like, maybe they just think that, like, Asians aren't, they just found me off the street and this is how I talk. You know what I mean?
Is it true that somebody was like, does anyone know an Asian actress?
Well, that was in the BMI workshop, apparently. This is a story that I heard, not because I wasn't there, but they needed an Asian actress to sing this part, and everyone's a little bit racist. Does anybody know anybody? I'm sure that's a question that comes up all the time when they're making up new shows.
Right.
And
this wasn't a casting office. This
was them
like,
in class.
Yeah, it was a class.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the part of the story that I missed.
Yeah, they were in class. Does anybody know an Asian actress? Amanda Green. Yeah. Because I went to college with her.
Oh my gosh. Wow, it really is. You never know how the
You
connections
never
are going to
know.
happen. There's one other thing that to me, there's this idea that in retrospect, everything seems inevitable, but looking forward, you can never guess what is going to happen. But like, I was reading about Sleight of Hand, this show that ran for 6 performances or 6 days.
Yes.
It took place. Do you remember where it took or when it was set?
What do you mean when it was set?
Like, if sometimes something's set at a state fair in the 50s or whatever.
It took place at this magician's.
On what date?
Oh, I don't know.
On Christmas Eve.
Oh, that's amazing. No, I had forgotten that.
Act 1 takes place on Christmas Eve in someone's
A magician's apartment.
house. And then Act 2 apparently takes place on an empty Broadway stage.
Yes.
And I don't know what that is an omen of, but I was reading about Sleight of Hand and I was like, Christmas Eve and Harada. It goes back so much further than
Oh my
we
God, I
ever
had totally
imagined.
forgotten that. And wow, that's true. Oh my God, that's true. I mean, I did like a lot of backers presentations for that show because it was a magician and a body has to fall out of a box at the end of Act 1. That was me.
Shut up.
Yeah, Harry Groner played the magician.
I love him.
Me
He was in the
too.
first Broadway show I ever saw.
Which was?
Crazy for You.
Oh, I was going to say Cats? No.
No, was he in Cats?
Huh?
He was in Cats?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, see, Cats was not on my radar because somehow I fell in love with Les Mis and Phantom, but never like
Cats.
really had heard of Cats.
Oh, okay.
I had 2 cassettes growing up.
Les Mis and Phantom. Fair.
And there was a community theater that did 3 musicals every summer in an amphitheater near where I grew up. And we were going there from the time I was literally like 4 months old, and my parents would pace in the back with me when I cried. And it was like, it seemed like it was just Gilbert and Sullivan shows.
Totally fair.
And so, like, I was aware that other shows existed, but I did not know how Broadway worked, that there were, like, 50 new shows a year and only a handful of them survived. I really thought Les Mis and Phantom were, like, the shows on Broadway, the same way there were 2 shows ever running in San Francisco at the same time.
Well, for a long time, it was Les Mis and Phantom.
Yeah, I guess.
And then other shows that would come and go, and...
Right, but if you weren't there, it was hard to be aware of them. And
of
somehow,
course.
Even though Cats ran forever, I never heard it. And then I moved here in 2005, and it had just closed, or it closed shortly thereafter. So until the revival, I'd never seen it, and I didn't really even know most of the music. Did you see that movie?
Of course. Oh, of course.
Yeah. Did you go sober?
Yes.
Have you read these articles that are like,
Yes.
get high and go see Cats?
Oh, absolutely.
What happens?
I'm not sure it would have made any more sense. Whatever. I'm thrilled that they tried.
Yeah,
Let's
me
put it
too.
like that.
Yeah. I think that, anytime you get the entire country talking about musicals, that's a win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I think that you just don't know what that is going to be the gateway drug for. Do you know what I mean? People come to love theater a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And maybe some person will see Cats and go like, there's something about that.
Well, what I think about is, there was a lot of sort of discussion about casting people like Taylor Swift who don't have a background in musical theater, and I think to have her huge, just like unfathomable fandom go to the theater to see an Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, if even like 10% of them are curious about what else that guy has done, their lives could end up being changed.
Totally.
Yeah.
I agree.
I also think that movie is going to have a future that none of us can imagine. Whether it's like the next Rocky Horror or whether it's, I don't know. I feel whether it gets remixed through TikTok in some way that becomes its own art form, I don't know.
Maybe the next stage production of Cats will incorporate some of those ideas.
Perhaps so. I mean, I think about the fact that, when Lin-Manuel Miranda talks about how he made Hamilton, he was so heavily influenced by his upbringing making mixtapes and incorporating a lot of different kinds of music into the same, through line, the same narrative, the idea of sampling, and that he has mourned the idea that this new generation will not know mixtapes in the same way. But I think about what theater's going to look like in 10 or 15 or 20 years with these kids who grew up on Snapchat and what that will inspire in ways that you and I could never fathom because that's not part of our native language. And I can't wait to see how, the stuff that feels very foreign and futuristic and not as like deep or whatever, not that I'm trying to put words into your mouth or even that I think that, but just the stuff that feels too new for me to wrap my head around, how that inspires the art that we will see in the next, generations.
Absolutely. I mean, in a way, I feel like Emojiland is kind of a step into that future.
Totally. Way to bring it back to the point. And also, not that I think that you were trying to just go back to the talking points, but you're totally right.
But do you know what I mean?
Yes, completely.
Because there's one point in the show where every single person in the audience laughs. And it's when on the screen they see nerd face emoji and skull emoji. Right? Because they understand it because it's presented like it's on their phone. And
Now, did you understand it, even having such an outdated phone?
Yes, I did, for heaven's sakes.
I'm teasing.
No, I know.
Yeah, but you're right. And, I think about there are theatrical traditions going back, thousands of years of like even something as simple as like, or something as ubiquitous as like the Greek gods. There's love and there's war and and those are not that different from emojis. So this has a historical precedent that there will be this concept of love incorporated on stage, concept of happiness. I don't know that there was a Greek god of nerdiness or a Greek god of pile of poo, but this idea of archetypes being represented.
Correct.
But you're right, it does frame it in a completely modern way. I mean, what if Emojiland had randomly shown up in that 1979 season? This doesn't make. Not only does this not make any sense, but
I don't follow.
Yeah, but it could only exist today,
Right, and that I think is. I don't think any of us are interested in a theater where all we celebrate is the past. Mm-hmm. I mean, not that I don't love old shows. I love old shows. I love the canon, and I love, singing songs that people first heard in 1927 or whatever the heck it was. But I also feel like our job is to keep pushing forward and to keep bringing new ideas to the form, because otherwise we die, right? Mm-hmm. You look at outdated business models now. 10 years ago, did you ever think you'd give up your cable TV subscription? Mm. Like, I talk about this because my husband works in cable television, and I think about it all the time. Like, is anybody getting a cable TV subscription now? No, because everybody's watching stuff off of their computers and their phones and whatever. And that's not anything you can predict.
Well, you're so right. And yet another reason that everybody needs to get down to the Duke or over to the Duke on 42nd Street, see Emojiland, go visit your resident pile of poo and all of the other archetypal, incredibly talented emojis. It's not that often that an off-Broadway show has the kind of buzz that this one does. And I feel like it's going to be hard to get tickets. So get them now, get several sets, and say that you were there. And give a high five to the pile of poo that's changing everything. Ann Harada, thank you so much for being here. I adore you.
Thank you.